There we go. There we are. Good. Looks good, right? Is it fuzzy? So I went to New York, as the title says, and I left with questions. And the question is actually, I left with one question. Wait a minute here. I need to. There we go. I had some other audio coming in there. So is New York cool or not? That's my question. Is New York still cool? Is a trip to New York still worth it? It used to be such a thrill. I think my first trip to New York was also, it may have also been my first trip on an airplane, believe it or not. I was doing college radio in at Boston College, and a DJ colleague, female, is that relevant? Is that germane? Yeah, it is. Said I have to go to New York, do something. Do you want to go? I said yes. So it was a big thrill to get on an L1011 back then, an L1011, big old L1011, and fly. Whoa, what a thrill! Plus there were certain sparks with this female person, and it was big time magical. Actually, you know what? That was not my first time there. That was my first time on an airplane, but not my first time to New York. I'm thinking way back to college. Here's a story. Great. This is a kind of David Bowie related story that has to do with New York. Oh my. I think on David Bowie's Stage album during that tour, he wore these cool leather pants by designer Claude Montana. And I heard that those actual pants were on display in Barney's, not because Bowie wore them, but just because they were cool and you could buy them. Well, I couldn't buy them. They were way too expensive. So that was part of the reason to go on the trip. And wow, that was way, way back in college. And I just remember being overwhelmed by how cool New York was. Walking in Little Italy, Christmas time, chill in the air, snow coming down. It was magic. It kind of choked me up. It was so magical. And the Chinatown, so special, so exciting, so exhilarating. I really felt I was alive at the time. And I've been many times since. I have a friend that I can visit. I've had many friends over the years. A guy I used to do college radio with, he lived in Brooklyn, and we'd go down and have a listening party. We'd choose one artist and go down and drink beer and listen to that artist. I remember one of them was the Associates, a British underground band, a great band. Most of you would not like them. And just so exciting. Now, this trip the other day, I do need balance in my life, so I need to go somewhere once in a while. I am home locked and Boston locked, and my home is great. I can be productive, and Boston's great, but something about me needs to get balance and get out. And I've been doing that by going to Vermont and Maine, hanging with my brother, which is kind of different. And that has been satisfying me. But I thought, I need to go somewhere further. But I'm not so sure I do anymore. Because it wasn't fun. And I don't know if it's because of COVID or because New York's not cool anymore. Let's see what Mark says. Hi, Mark. Can I see it? Jay, with that cool space behind you, you should be selling handmade candles and mulled cider. Yeah. This is my actual home. I wish it's not my actual home. All my backgrounds are photos I've taken of places I've been. And it's fun to try to make them look real. This one looks real as heck, doesn't it? The lighting's right. The color scheme matches. My size matches. It seems real. But thanks for pointing that out. This is actually a bar in Belgrade, Serbia. Anyway, I went down on the bus, which was hell. It's always been hell, but now with COVID, it's more hell. I was going to take a train, but my friend said, don't take the train. It brings you to Penn Station and it's too dangerous. Really? I mean, she lives in New York and it's too dangerous? Well, if she says it's too dangerous, I guess I better heed. Plus there were more I thought there were more departure date times on the bus, but that's not true. The train was way more expensive, but I didn't care. I mostly cared about not being jammed up with a whole bunch of people. I didn't know how many people would be going down on Sunday morning. It was about half full, and I wasn't that uncomfortable with it because no one was coughing. Get down to New York, and I do feel I didn't really feel the thrill. It just looked beat down. It looked grimy. It looked boarded up. It did not look funky anymore. It was just a bunch of chain stores, which any chain stores suck the life out of any community. That's why I like communities that don't have chain stores, like Jamaica Plain. I don't know about East Boston, but those kind of communities are where it's cool now. Any place I see a chain store, the obligatory chain stores, it's not worth going to. It's not cool. And that's what New York was. It just seemed like a bunch of chain stores. It was gritty, grimy, loud, more expensive, and blah. Not that fun. And I'm kind of asking you, do you think that's those of you who go to New York, is it just me and I've grown out of it, or does it suck now? And then, let me tell you the story of the bus on the way back. It was Monday morning. I took the Chinatown bus because it goes to Chinatown. It's called Lucky Star. It goes to Chinatown, which is an actual place with a name. Chinatown is right on the map, so it's not me being, uncaring or unthinking. It is a place, and it's a Lucky Star and goes to Chinatown. It's a neighborhood, and it's close to where I was going. Otherwise, if I went to Penn Station, I'd have to take me another 45 minutes to get where I'm going. It leaves from Chinatown on Monday morning. I don't know how many people are going to be on the bus, and I'm kind of dreading it because I couldn't sit with someone right beside me for two reasons. I don't want them COVID-wise, and the seats are too tight to actually sit there. It'd be bad for your health. So I rolled the dice. I got my own seat, but the bummer was there were people coughing like crazy. A lady behind me, some kid was hacking the whole time, and other people were coughing. Some other guys yammering on the phone, on speakerphone. So we hear the whole conversation loud, but I've kind of learned not to be what's the word? I was thrown for a loop by this comment. Eddie. I try not to be irritated by so many things anymore. I'm doing a lot of self-improvement and adopting a lot of the Stoic philosophies and changing how you think about things. There's so many things I was irritated about all the time. Are me. One of the tenets, the main things in Stoicism is you cannot change what is. You can only change how you feel about it. And a lot of times, how you feel about something is either wrong or just unnecessary. Is there any real reason that I would get so upset that some guy's speaking loudly? I mean, the bus is kind of loud. It's not killing me. And what used to bother me, I think, was how could that guy be so rude? How could that guy ignore the rules of society? But he was from another place. He was kind of clueless. He's the same guy. There was a line, and he didn't get at the back of the line. There's a line to get on the bus. He kind of was in front of me. I mean, I got there before he did, but he kind of was nudging in front of me, and I said, dude, and pointed behind me. He didn't seem to get it. He didn't do anything. I did it again. He goes, oh, it seemed like he was surprised that there was this rule about lines. He seemed pretty clueless, and probably from another society. Like I can handle the loud conversation on speakerphone in some other language. People cutting in line, well, even that in general wouldn't be the end of the world, but there's a thing about getting on buses. You kind of want to get in before each seat fills up. Because if you get in before there's somebody beside, how do I put this? You want to have your own seat. You don't want anybody beside you. So you want your own little cubby. If you get in there after everybody's got their cubby, you're definitely going to have to sit with somebody. But if you get your own little cubby and somebody else comes in and they need to sit by someone because there are no little cubbies open, there's like a 1 in 20 chance they choose you. So your odds are a lot better that no one's going to be sitting beside you. So I didn't want him cutting. Robert House says, I have issues. Hold on. Robert House is in a very negative mood now. Robert says, you are bummed out by silly stuff. Okay. Don't know what that means. Which of the many things that I'm bummed out by are you talking about? The conversation, the cutting in line? Are you saying you wouldn't be bummed out by someone cutting in front of you? Steve says, why would you go to New York on a bus? Definitely not cool. Self-improvement, not. Can you go into more on that, Steve? Why would you go to New York on a bus? I explained that earlier because what are the other options? Fly? Too much of a pain. The airport's jammed. Planes are jammed. The lines for security jammed. It's awful. And it takes longer to fly because you got to allow an hour to get to the airport. You got to get there an hour early. So the travel time to the airport, get there an hour early. If the plane leaves on time, that's an hour. Then you got to deplane and you got to walk this long corridor. Then you got to get on the one train and then you got to get on another train. It takes about the same time. So we didn't nickname for Robert House. Negative Howard? No, Negative Robert. We need some sort of nickname. Be nice, but it's got to say something about his super negativity. Johnny Graham. Shame about limo liner. No kidding. I was asking about that the other day. Hilton, Back Bay to Hilton Midtown. Never get on that Chinatown bus ever. Why, John? What is the bummer with the Chinatown bus? Because the Fang Hua burned down one time? Is that it? The upside of that was no one went on it, and it wasn't that crowded. Why the Chinatown bus? Who cares about a guy sleeping on a subway? Not me. Dude, what planet are you on? What are you watching? What show are you watching? Who cares about a guy sleeping on subway? Not me. Wow, that seems to be super irrelevant. Robert says, you have issues. Robert, you just kind of, I suppose, though, you're like, it's very interesting to have you here. What's wrong with you, Robert? What's going on in your head? Do you need professional help? You're spouting negativity without any direction. Poor thing. I feel bad for you. Can we get you some help, brother? Mark. Bradley is someone who commuted from Plymouth to South Station prior to the pandemic. I could have warned you. The bus is a germ tube. Oh, no. A germ tube. Okay. I know I'm vaccinated. I took my chances. My brother-in-law still lives in New York. City's not anything like it was before, in the before times. Okay. Robert, buses and subways suck. Well, that's a blanket statement. And subways. What's wrong with subways, brother? If you mean if they're crowded, do you mean disease-wise? Or do you mean in general? Is Eddie. Eddie said something interesting before. LOL. Stay off those trains. So, Robert, you're just all over the place. Wrong with me? Yes. I and then it's just a one-word thing. Stink. You poor man. I'm assuming you're a man. I guess I shouldn't. You might be gender fluid, dude. I don't know. Gender fluid. Correct. I said accidentally gender liquid the other day, and my brother laughed at me. But isn't it the same thing? Really? Robert House says, you cheap. Get over it. No, dude. I would have taken a plane if the plane was not such a bummer. I actually not cheap. Bobby, Boston Bob. How you doing, Bob? We got a wild one here. I'm Bob's Entertainment. Does my gender matter? Dope. Is dope, is that a question mark, or dope like that's dope, or dope like drugs, or no, I it doesn't matter at all, brother. That's I just wanted to make sure I wasn't assuming you were a man, because that I suppose that's incorrect now. I don't know how you self-identify gender-wise. That's the only thing. I still don't know. Eddie says, wow, I know, right, Eddie? This dude is entertaining. And I feel bad for him, though. It's kind of like a slow motion car crash. Here's a good incisive comment. Whatever. Okay. All right. So anyway, Bob, if you just joined us, which I think you did, I was trying to see what you thought about New York. Being in the transportation business, you know about New York. I think New York sucks now. It's not worth going. Not worth the trip. Even during non-COVID times. It's green, greasy, grimy, not cool, not funky. It's just a bunch of NYU students up there by Union Park. And whatever shine or funkiness and or coolness it had, it's gone. It's just not worth the noise and the travel. I'm now going to Maine and New Hampshire. And then you got a couple of announcements now. Is it Eddie? Is it Edie? It's got to be Eddie. Sorry. It's a situation where hang up button seems important. I can just ignore him, by the way. I don't have to post his comments. I found them entertaining. So he's still doing the comments. But they're now kind of off the rail, like a train. What do you call those? On a siding? Dead end. On the siding. So New York. If you had to go to New York, how would you go? You'd drive, right? What a pain that is. It's a pain driving, especially when you get down past Portchester and then into the Bronx. The Bronx? Into Queens. And it would just be white knuckle for me. So I did look at the train, whatever. Brad, last time I visited NYC, a month ago, I flew there JetBlue and took the Acela. You know, I should have taken the Acela. I'm curious, Bob, how was the flight? When I flew to Wyoming, even that early, the lines at security were like long and stupid. Just such a bummer. Winding around those little rope things. People being dumb in security, taking forever. Then the flight. It would have. Those lines, they can't be that great for COVID. There's people jammed up. They're not social distancing. I enjoyed that mode of transport, although the train took some time. I'm a train freak. I love trains. I should have taken the train. I still would have had to get from Penn Station to the Chinatown area and then over the Manhattan Bridge to Gold Street in Brooklyn, which is right off of Flatbush, right over the bridge. So I can walk to where I'm going if I take the bus. That was my thing. While in NYC, I could not wait to depart. Right. Too many mentally challenged peeps tying up traffic. And peeps did not seem to think there was a pandemic. I left as soon as I could. So good. I'm glad you went there. Now, I was thinking, and I was talking about how I went there as a young man and how it was magically delicious. It was so big and cool and scary in a good way. And Little Italy seemed magnificent, and Chinatown seemed magnificent. And St. Mark's, okay, key example. St. Mark's was where it was happening. It was punky and cool. Now, just bleh. So good. It's not just me. There's no need for me to go to New York ever again. Really, even when the pandemic's over, there's no point. I think the train is better to NYC. Yeah, I think you're right. Okay. And what else? Oh, a couple of announcements. One, I don't eat any. I try not to eat any pasta or bread or starch of any kind, but there's now going to be an exception. I want to become an expert at hand making my own pasta. I have started today. I made it today. I made it before and it came out all right, but what I would do is overcook it. Now, do you remember Joe Matthew? My colleague, Joe Matthew? Remember the crossover, baby? How excellent that was with Joe Matthew? Oh, that was radio magic. Probably some of my most fun on the radio. Well, he's gone down to DC now. Anyway, he's a super good cook. Did you know he's what do you call a wine expert? Sommelier? He's almost a sommelier. He might actually be one. I don't know if he took the exam or not. I think he did. Bob says, I miss Joe. Yeah, me too. And what I want to do is, for both entertainment and edification, gustatory edification, is have him do a thing with me, and he shows us how to make pasta by hand. Hopefully he can do that. I would love to do that. And Charles Laquadera, that's right, Kink Neck Joe. Charles Laquadera has agreed to do a political segment with us between you and me. I'd like him to do once a month. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. I suppose it all depends on if it's fun for him. And so, Eddie, why not buy pasta? Jeez. Okay. Because it's, for one thing, it's cool to make stuff. Like, it's creative to make wallets, to be a maker of things. It feels good, Eddie. Now, if it's something you can eat that's pretty healthy, and it's the very best that can be, that's even cooler. If you make your own fresh pasta at home and it never gets dried, it's an entirely different experience. It tastes completely differently. I'm trying to get the exact right time to cook it, to boil it. It's like 20 seconds. I used to boil it too much. So I'm going to make it every day, just a tiny little bit until it gets great. Shannon, my significant other, cooks a great mussel broth. We love mussels. And So she makes extra broth. I'm going to use the pasta sometime over the muscle, under the muscles. But even we make extra broth, and we'll just use the broth as a reduced as a sauce, kind of. Sauce is not a good word. Oenophile is a wine connoisseur. He's beyond connoisseur. He went to school to not just be a connoisseur. He took an exam, I think. That's Joe Matthew. Bob Levine. Eddie. Why is cooked letter? Why is a crooked letter? Wow. Why is a crooked letter? Is that an actual riddle, Batman? Or a typo? Why is a crooked letter? I don't know. Is this a clean joke? Why is a crooked letter? It's still not healthy with white flour. Yeah, I know, dude. Give me a break. Why? Oh. Okay. Yes. Why is it crooked letter? And some of the things I want to ask Charles Laquidara include how bad of a. Here's my take on the Afghanistan thing. Well, I kind of have two takes on it. I don't know whether it was the right thing or not to pull out at all. President Trump decided to pull out, and Joe Biden executed it. I don't know if it was a good idea to pull out. I do know that the Biden execution was awful. How do you mess that up? I feel like I could have done it better. But I'm going to ask him how he feels about that whole thing. Should they have brought everybody home? I don't know. The excuse they use is, well, is this war going to go on forever? Well, I don't really. You don't have to have it be a war. There are troops in Germany. There are troops in Iceland. There were in Greenland. Maybe they're still. We have bases all over the world. Why not maintain a presence in Afghanistan? A defensive posture. Don't go looking for anybody. Just be there so you can respond to Taliban attempts to take over cities like they did. I mean, if you're going to have a military, you might as well use them. I mean, they're just sitting at base here. You got to pay them. Have them sitting on a base there. And I'll ask him about, he's a guy who likes to correct people's grammar and spelling. My grammar's all right. My spelling is not. I'm just impatient, I guess. I'm afraid to post on his site because when you misspell something, you hear about it and you feel like a boob. He's a person that will correct you, and I'll ask him about, do you ever, is it really worth it to correct everybody? You do it because you feel it's your duty, probably. Wayne asks, does anyone believe every detail of the Afghanistan was drafted by the president? By which president? The Afghanistan withdrawal? Well, he's on the hook for it. Politically. I mean, do they go through every detail? I would think it's a giant deal. I would think they would have a sit down with the higher ups in the military and say, this is the plan. We're going to do this and that, and we're going to leave this way. And Joe Biden should have said, but wait a minute. That way, we're going to leave some folks high and dry. It's very sad when I think about all our military misadventures. I just watched a big long thing on Vietnam. Imagine how how they must have viewed us. We killed 2 million civilians in Vietnam. That doesn't count the military people, which I'm not counting. 2 million civilians. And they didn't view it as, we're fighting for communism. We didn't get that. They were fighting for their country, just like if someone were trying to invade our country, they were fighting for their country. And when you're fighting for your homeland, you will fight to the death. It's really hard to beat someone in their home field when they view you as somebody trying to take their country away. We didn't get that, at least not in the beginning. Levine says, terrific leaders do not micromanage. You're right. You can't micromanage, but the major pieces of this you could look at, like the timing and the order in which stuff happened. There are various people with the Pentagon and the upper echelons of the military that have their fingerprints all over this evacuation. Yeah. Whether we like it or not, Joe Biden will politically be on the hook for this. The only good thing about this for Joe Biden is that Americans do not remember stuff, and we'll have other problems by then. If this were the election year, there'd be big problems for him. And so Charles Laquidara will be here, and he'll talk about that stuff. One thing about Laquidara is, and if you're not following him on Facebook, you should. Why don't you, Robert, why don't you follow Charles? Charles is so good-natured about it. When people criticize him, he laughs it off. At least externally. I don't know if he's laughing inside, but it's just water rolls off his back. He's always been that way. He takes a ribbing very well. He has thick skin, as they say. Oh, look, it's John Graham back talking about Joe. So I want to have Joe on, and I want to have Charles on. Anthony Samarcos. We're probably going to go back to the way it was on the terrestrial radio show, if you will. We try to have basically 20 guests that rotate. Maybe I don't need 20. 10 or so really good guests. And I need a political guest, to tell you the truth. I wish Joe would be that political guest. I wonder if he would. He's super duper busy. He just got a new job. He moved. When you get a new job in a new town, you have to find a new house, sell your house, which has got to be a giant headache. You got to relocate your kids in school. You got to learn the ropes of the new place. I never had to do that. I never had to move for a new job. So I can only guess at how difficult it is. Oh, I guess I can go now. It's nice to see that we have. Robert Holmes says, I want to be in the Whack Pack. Okay. Robert, do you act this way because you want to, or because you can't help it? Do you do it for the attention? Like you say, you want to be in the Whack Pack. That makes me think you do it on purpose. You say wacky things. It's like people who are in the Whack Pack because they can't help it. They don't want to be in the Whack Pack. I only use that word because you said it. Charles doesn't pull any punches with regard to his political opinions, much like Bill Maher. He calls them like he sees them. Yeah, that's true. But he's open-minded too, and he will admit he will change his mind, which is super admirable. Unlike most people, I too, when presented with new information, will change my mind. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Bill Maher. Big, big, big. Yeah, it's also on YouTube. And I know, Robert, here's the thing. Robert Levine says, Bradley J, you can't put it on Facebook. You can only put it on YouTube. And I completely get it because my goal is to grow my YouTube channel, which only has a few more to go to get to 1,000. But, and I did that for a while, but I do also want to have a conversation. So I had to balance. Do I want to drive people to YouTube and not have a conversation? Or is it valuable to have this input? And it's valuable to have the input. Need to grow to 100,000. I know. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. La Guadera has a huge followship, if you will. So about the trip, yep. What about it? This initially we started out, but as in any of my talk shows, I definitely am not a person that feels like you need to stick to the topic for a whole hour. That used to be like the rule. And so many things that program directors will tell you are wrong. They are wrong. I know. I have experience. I did it their way. And it was sometimes it's more entertaining to move the heck on and to beat a topic for an hour, the old school radio way, can get boring. Yeah, we did it. We covered it. We covered it enough. So I moved on. And that's why Robert House says no politics. Well, that's different now. I do politics now. How's that grab you? As for Whack Pack, says John, Robert is only a client. Not only a client, he's the president. I don't know. Such a know-it-all. All right. And there's a lot of stuff I haven't posted for Robert. I guess Robert's one of those guys that just likes the notoriety. And I get that, dude. I like the notoriety too. And there are people that say wacky stuff, negative stuff, horrible stuff, just to get noticed. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the legislator. She just says crazy stuff to get noticed. Yes, and Charles will change the info points when the info points in a new direction. Yeah. So back to Bill Maher. I agree with Bill Maher on most things, but not on vaccinations. He's irritated. He's all doesn't want to get the booster. Sorry, Bill, that's where you lose me. And I don't know if you saw the episode, but this guy drilled him a new one with class. He didn't pull any punches, as they say. Bill was saying that he didn't want to get the booster, and this guest, they have two guests, just smoked him in a very polite but forceful way, and Bill was he didn't have any responses. I'm freezing. Got the AC on. Oh, by the way, good news, summer's over. That's my prediction. Right now. Well, not what's the temperature now? Let me check. Don't need no 81. Okay. So summer's over. We're looking at, and I thank God. Thank you. Wednesday, 73 degrees. Thursday, 68 for a high. Oh, yeah. And then you have a bunch of 70s that you get 81, and we'll have another couple of hot days, but they're going to feel different, even the hot ones. It'll be cooler at night. The hell that is summer is pretty much over. So did we learn anything yesterday relative to the peeps who chose not to get vaxxed? No. Oh, you know what? I think I did learn something. I think some people are just either afraid or lazy, and they use other stuff as an excuse. There was one guy, do you remember, said the government is cloudy on how it gives out its information. No, it's not. You know, you can find out there are federal websites to tell you what's up. FDA now approves Pfizer. It's not emergency approval, but full-on legit approval. So what's cloudy about that? I think some people are wimpy and selfish. Some people are afraid of getting shots, and they use these other things as an excuse. Other people are there are some, I think a few political people, I can't do anything that the liberal told me to do, even if it's going to save my life and the economy and the lives of others. And I don't know what to do to get, you would think that when you see what happened in the states like DeSantis, Florida, and in Arkansas, and places where those red states where they don't want any vaccination, look what happened. That kind of makes it pretty clear that the vaccination works. Wayne says, let's see. Robert Howes, there's no politics on the Jay Talking Group Facebook page. That group has a different purpose. Yes, that's right. Read the group rules. Yeah, Robert. Though Bradley J reserves the right to deviate as he sees. That's right. You know what the number... You know, I could teach a class in radio. By the way, I would like to, if anyone is connected to a major school, teach a course, not in the history of radio, because I don't know the history of radio. Not enough to teach it. And I think it would be a pain and I wouldn't be into it. What I can teach is people is how to be on the radio. So I could teach a kind of lab for radio and podcast, because while radio's dead, podcasts are not. But the skill set's the same: to interview somebody, one, to entertain. Believe it or not, you may think it's easy, but to entertain by yourself with a microphone, you and a microphone for a half an hour or for 5 hours, is a skill that takes a while to learn. And I could teach these kids. I could teach them how to be decent in a lot longer than it took me, in a lot shorter time than it took me to get half decent. Volunteer at a high school. Nah, too young. Well, I suppose maybe that's a good idea, Stephen Doc. You'll need the gift of gab. Well, Stephen, you know, I have it. Look, I've been gabbing here for a while. Some of us need 5 hours overnight. I know, Eddie. Oh, what about 3 hours once a week? I got to tell you that working overnight is an unhealthy thing. And I'm much healthier now. I lost weight. I'm much healthier. I get some sun. I don't want to get too much sun, though. I really don't like the sun. That's why I'm happy this is. What about pandemic hangover? Hotels are a mess base. Geez, that's a crazy thing to say. What's a mess base? Maybe I'm not understanding. What kind of language? Maybe English isn't your first language, and you don't really understand English, so I apologize. I shouldn't assume that English is your first language. My bad. Okie doke. Anything else? If anybody has a topic they'd like to address tomorrow, I'll be up here. I'll be on tomorrow. I don't know when Charles is going to be on, but I guess that's it. I do need some advice. Got a little bit of mold in the shower. A little bit. I hate bleach, even homemade bleach made out of peroxide and baking soda. Is there anything that's not super toxic? How do you get the mold off? Will alcohol kill it? Do you just have to scrub it off? Mold. One thing I'm never gonna have mold again. I tell you that, because my shower curtain is kind of Orange Clean works. Does it really work? If I'm gonna look that up. Bob seems to know a lot of stuff. So I have a shower liner and then a cotton shower curtain. And it was my habit, in order to dry out everything, to kind of dry out the shower liner, to close it so it's hanging loose. But I don't know. I think I need to leave, and I should have known this a long time ago. A lot of homemakers will know. I need to leave the tub and that area open so that it dries out, because it's always being moist that makes the mold. Steven says, move. That's a great idea. I got 1 dot of mold. 1 dot. You must really hate. You'd really move over. Actually, it's not 1 dot, or a couple of small dots. You'd move. Actually, the mold itself is gone now. It's kind of this dark remainder stain that it leaves. Stephen, Doc, you're like a guy who would buy a new car because the ashtray is full. Nancy, there you are. You look like a rock star. I clean the shower. Yes, I did that. It works. It's kind of a bleach. It is. It's not as bad as chlorine bleach. But I did it, and it didn't really get rid of that black spot. What is Silas paste? Baking Silas paste. Boy, you learn something every day. Tell us what Silas paste is, Nancy. Nancy, why don't you come on live sometime? You've been Bob's been on. Wayne's been on. John's been on, I think. Yes, I know he has. Why don't you come on sometime? You seem smart. There's also Tracy Richardson, the horse person. Might be good to come on, have as a guest. If anybody wants to be a guest, go to the Facebook and give me your email address. And if something pops up that would be a good topic for you, then I'll email you an invitation. Would that be fun? What did I write? Silas. You wrote Silas. I'd love to. I'd live to. But I have to return to school tomorrow. So what? Is life over when you return to school? Come on now. Come on. Baking soda paste. All right. Thanks a lot, you guys. What do I have to do now? Well, today, you wouldn't believe how much I clean today. I have a new policy. I love cleaning. It's one of my new hobbies all the time. I'm going to get up and do a general pickup of any clutter that occurred. And then every day, take an hour, deep clean one room. Today, I deep cleaned the bathroom. I'm talking the grody parts. The grody parts, including that space. So it's toilet, sink, shower, and tub. And there's this teeny little space between the shower and tub and the thing the sink's in, whatever you call it. It's too small to generally reach your hand down there. So it's kind of this mystery area. It's dark. You can't even see it. So who knows what's down there? He shows dust, but it probably gets damp. Ugh. So I reached my arm way back there, cleaned that, and really super micro cleaned everything with alcohol. Shows so shiny in there. I hate clutter, but I make clutter a lot. John, I haven't been on yet. Enjoy the day. John, you were on with weren't you on with the guy who built the log homes? Well, anytime, we got to have you on, John. Steve says, this is deja vu, and midnight to 5 a.m. broke out. Huh. So yeah, tomorrow I'll clean some and I'll do another show if you will, if you really want to help me out, man, subscribe to my YouTube pages, my YouTube channels. You can search Bradley J's Boston with the apostrophe, Bradley J Travel, and Bradley J Personal. And by the way, Bob, one final thing. What I will do is after every once in a while, after a particularly good interview, I will repost it. I will take the link from YouTube and say, in case you missed it, here it is. And that will drive them to YouTube. And I will say also, in order to not miss any future ones, subscribe to the channel. That's as close as I'm going to get to having the best of both worlds. But I do need I do need the input. Wayne says, I'm going to get you a job cleaning. My first job that you guys don't know about was as an operator. I cleaned the operating rooms in Rochester, New Hampshire, in a hospital there, in the hospital. My friends, just another quick story. My friends were all working at the hospital. I was washing dishes at a restaurant called Suzelle's, which is near the Rochester Airport, Skyhaven. It was a job. Is washing dishes a bummer? I don't. It's a job. I didn't mind it. But my friends were all washing dishes at the hospital because my classmate, Susie, her father was the administrator, and they got them all jobs. And I kept bugging them. Can I get a job washing dishes at the hospital? It looked awesome. And they said, no, you keep checking back with us, though. So I took that to mean check back every day. So I checked every day. Got a job yet for me? No. Got a job yet for me? Nope. I don't know. After about 3 or 4 days, they said, tell you what. They, meaning the administrator, we're making a new job for you. We need someone to clean the operating rooms at the end of the day. So they had a janitor. What do you call a janitor? I guess a janitor. Who would do the cleaning up, clean the rooms between the operations and stuff. He was there during the day, but they wanted somebody to detail the place. So when everyone was gone and it was real dead quiet and the specimens that had been taken out of people during the day were on the shelves, the appendixes, what else gets taken out? Gallbladders in the specimen jars there. And the blood splatters on the wall that the janitor didn't get. They wanted me to detail the place like with a toothbrush detail, all the cracks in the wall, the tile wall. And no one had ever done that job before, so they didn't know how long that job would take. And so there was no hurry. There was no hurry up. I was by myself. There was no boss around. So I took my time. And I got to use a buffer, and I love using a buffer. But you can't use wax on an operating room floor because it affects the conductivity, and you can get a spark, which will blow up the anesthesia gas. So that was I did love that job. And I was also a janitor at college. Tell you the truth, I liked cleaning the operating rooms. It was a chill job, and that led me to become an operating room technician and go to operating room technician school. It's how it goes. You work, you meet people, you branch out. And when I was 17, I was elbow deep in people, legitimately. Actually, well, not quite elbow deep, because people, unless you're pretty heavy, you're not that thick. And I'll tell you one quick story about my first time in the operating room doing something. The course was 1 year and it was free because they wanted to train people to work there. Actually, you got a stipend for the last 6 months. So I went to school for free. 6 people in the class, and it was very, very intimate instruction. It was also pretty wild because it was a school of nursing, and there was maybe 80 women who were just out of high school and had left their boyfriend, and I was the only dude. You can imagine how that went. But after 6 months, I was probably at the time now 18, it was time to go in and gown up and glove up for the first time. And it was an abdominal aortic aneurysm, the case. And there were 5 women and me, and one of the women went first, gowned and gloved. Okay, we need you to hold this retractor. So it was an abdominal aortic aneurysm, which they were trying to repair. An aneurysm is a weakness, like if you get a bulge in a garden hose, that's an aneurysm. Actually, if you get a bubble, if your tire gets worn thin and see canvas and it bubbles out, that's an aneurysm. So they wanted to fix it before it popped, and that would be catastrophic. So there's a pretty big wound, and you have to retract a lot of stuff out of the way because you need to see what's going on. Got the operating room light. It's very hot in there, and we're all 6 of us are in there, and one woman is actually doing it while we're watching her. And then the aneurysm breaks. And that is bad news because the abdominal aorta is huge. Not quite garden hose huge, but huge. The suction jammed, so they couldn't see what was going on. It was just a pool of blood in the wound, welling up, spilling over. And the surgeon is splashing around trying to grab it with his hand. And the student who was doing it faded, faded dead out. So they looked over. Okay, who's next? Who's up? It was me. And I said, I want you to put your hands right here, hold the small bowel out of the way. So they had a wet lap sponge, which is a sponge about a foot square. And it's wet because you don't want it sticking to the organ. So it's wet with saline. And with my hands, retracted the small bowel while the doctor tried to save the guy. And he did live. He did live. But that was my life at 18. Just so you know. Let's see. Yes, reposting the show is a great idea. I'll refire all the notifications. Cool. All right. Well, I've shared enough for you today. Cleaning with Brad, Stephen Dock. That's right. And Wayne's wife cleans houses for a living. I wonder if I would like cleaning other people's houses. I kind of like cleaning mine because after I clean it, it's clean. I love cleaning it and then having a nice meal and watching a movie. I'm a simple man. Shannon and I, that's what we love. Clean house. She cooked the mussels, made little garlic toasts, some nice wine, and we watched a good movie. You wouldn't think it would be good. It has John Cena in it. Super good. I watch a lot of feel-good movies now, and it's called Vacation Friends. It's a comedy. It's weird. I recommend it, and it's on right now, and I don't know if it's free or not, but I never rent anything more than $6.99, so that's the most it could be. All righty then. How long have we been chatting here? An hour. See that? I could teach people how to do that. If any of you know anybody in the communications department at one of these Boston schools, you let me know. I have actually reached out to a couple, and the response was a little better than I thought. So we'll end this at an hour even. How's that? Cool. You guys are the best. So Nancy, got to have you on. I don't care if you can be on for 5 minutes. So what if you go back to school? If you wanted to do it, you would find a way. John Graham, I want you to come on. And if anybody else has a burning desire, I mean, we can talk about it. Bob Levine, he's been on. He's a good guest. Or good, not really a guest, I should say caller. Stephen Block, you're interesting. Robert House, probably not so much. That's kind of different. You know, when I was on the radio, I had to take the call. I couldn't just not take the call, even though I knew exactly what the guy's going to say or girl. And even though they've said it thousands of times, and even though it was either wrong, stupid, or boring, I had to take the call. Here I don't have to take the call. All righty. There we go. It's 1 hour even.